So I'm just visiting Jeff Moss at Moss Lighting here, and he's going to be talking a little bit about the difference between CRI and TLCI, because not a lot of people understand you might have a high CRI rating, but it actually doesn't really mean that the color is accurate on the light. So maybe you can talk a little bit about CRI levels.
So the original rating for CRI didn't cover what would be considered a full spectrum light. So you can have a pretty high CRI, but it still not accurately reflect some colors. So there's been new rating systems that are out, CQS being one of them, and TLCI being one of them, that tries to bridge that gap. Also, CRI has been expanded to cover different points as well, but essentially you can have a high CRI light and it still have gaps in the full spectrum light that what you're looking for. So if you have a tungsten source and you're trying to match it with an LED source, that tungsten source might have points in the spectrum that aren't accurately represented by your LED, even if the LED has a high CRI value.
Yeah, so like the CRI ratings, there's R values inside the CRI, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So like R1 through to
R8.
R8. Okay.
Was the original CRI spectrum, and then it got expanded beyond that. And then so CRI or R9 is one of the main values that people look at, especially for film and TV, because R9 is representing a red indicator, which everybody has a fair amount of red in their skin. And if that is lacking in your LED or your light source, it will make people and their skin not look as natural or not look as normal as what it would under standard sunlight or a traditional light source like tungsten.
Right. So so a light that might have a value of a CRI, say, of 95, all those R values could all be really high, except to say they all rated it like 98 for every other R value. But the R9, which is, you said, the red channel, could be way lower. It could be at like 20 or 30 or 40, but it's not going to affect the final CRI
That's
value.
right. Yeah, it won't pull it down enough to really give you a proper indication of what that light is going to do, comparatively speaking, to, like I said, like a traditional light source.
Right.
So you can still have pretty poor color quality, potentially even in a CRI of 90 to... Once you're in 95 to 98, you're pretty well guaranteed the R9 is going to be at least somewhat decent.
Right.
But yeah, in the 80 to 90 range, it may still not look good on skin tone.
Right. So then also, even if some people would say that you could shoot something with all of the same LEDs, say you had only 4 lights to work with, they were all the same company, same brand of LEDs, they all had the same CRI rating, but their R9 was lower, so the skin tone, it's lacking a bit of red maybe in the color. Is that something that, because you're using all the same light, that skin tone is still going to look poor, or can you color balance to that to fix for it?
You can probably color balance to fix for most of it.
Yep.
There's still that old saying like garbage in, garbage out. If it's not there to begin with, then it won't be there in the end result product. But yes, you would be much closer than saying trying to light with, say, like an airy halogen fixture and your LED. There will be, you could have a vast difference.
Okay. And the TLCI, now how does that change from a CRI value?
So TLCI has basically tried to do a different color spectrum. So it still is looking at point sources or what different colors look like under that light source, but they've filled in some gaps that CRI never had or didn't take into account, and it's also slightly skewed specifically for camera and digital as well. So you could have a CRI 90 to 95. The TLCI is probably a little bit more indicative of what the color quality actually will be. It really depends on your LED source, but lots of times some of the less quality LEDs will have a higher CRI and a lower TLCI. as
Right.
TLCI tries to see those little gaps that CRI doesn't cover.
Yeah, so like what we were talking about before, where the R9 might be lower, but the CRI sets higher.
That's right, yeah.
A TLCI reading will actually be more accurate and show that R9 and take that into account instead of averaging the rest of them out.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't have the same R values. It's a bunch of different colors that it's trying to say they're as accurate or not. But R9 is the red indicator.
Yeah.
So there's TLCI has broken that out as opposed to just having that one main red color into a few different warm, amber, and whatnot. To try and indicate whether or not your light is actually good or not.
And then one final thing is most lights, they seem to be fighting either they have a magenta hue or a green hue to them, and that seems to be an LED kind of common problem a lot. And is that a certain value that's there, or are they missing something in the spectrum somewhere else, or is that just older technology?
It's typically, it could be a whole number of things. There's a million different LEDs out there, and if you look at a color chart, there's what's called the Blackbody curve on it. So if you see a chart of full spectrum color, which gives which shows like all your reds, greens, blues, ambers, everything, there's one black line that covers just that white light. If your LED is off that black line, the Blackbody curve is what they call it, then it either skews usually magenta or green, because magenta being on one side and green being on the other. So it's very hard to get an LED that is exactly on that Blackbody curve. If you have a small adjustment one way or the other, then it'll give you a little bit more magenta or a little bit more green.
Right. Okay, well, thanks for explaining CRI and
Can you
TLCI.
try emailing him when he gets back to his